We got a little high school football action going on this weekend, and joining us to talk about that, preview it, Stephen Orr, West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show. Stephen, good morning.
Chad, good morning. How are you today?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well and getting ready to start the meat and potatoes of high school football as we get into district play, and that's big. Probably the big storyline this week. Most of the districts in the area kicking off and getting started, and now is the march to the state championship. You hope you've had a good season up to this point, but if not, coming out of the bye, you can wipe the slate clean and start anew. And I know there's some teams that are wanting to do that, and had a couple of district games kick off last night, one up at Dick Bivens Stadium in Amarillo, where the Coronado Mustangs go up to take on the Amarillo High Sandies. The Sandies came into this ball game at 4-1. Their only loss was earlier in the year to Wichita Falls Rider. And Coronado gives them a much better game than I thought going in, but Amarillo High gets the win in that one, 28-24. Then down at Lowry last night there in Lubbock, Abilene Cooper comes to town to take on Lubbock High. Both of these teams 1-4 on the year coming into the game. Cooper's 1-4 looks a little bit different as far as some of the competition they've played, but last night it was all Abilene Cooper with the Cougars getting the win there, 48-47.
Yeah, that was a big win yesterday. I was following that on Twitter as KFYO was updating the score there, and it was just getting worse and worse for Lubbock High as the game went on.
Well, and I got to see a little bit of the game, and, not for lack of effort, but Cooper just outsized and outmanned Lubbock High, and that's something that you see happen to High. It seems like a lot, but, you root for those kids to maybe find a little more success, and maybe they can as they go into this district campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. And tonight, have a lot of games out there, and hopefully not having to deal with too much rain, as I think most of the rain's supposed to get out of here by this evening, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you've got a really good one right there in Lubbock. I think it's going to be an interesting one as Friendship and Monterey kick off their district season taking on each other. Both teams come in with a 4-2 record. Friendship had to beat Clovis last week to stop a 2-game slide, which is not something they're used to doing. Common opponent for these two is Odessa High School. Monterey took them on week 1 of the season and lost that ball game 44-32. Friendship dropped one a couple of weeks ago to Odessa High, 26-25. So I think this is going to be a really good ball game. And can Monterey step up and play the game that they need to play and eliminate the errors to beat that Tiger team? And that should be a really good ball game. You drop down into 5A, and you've got Lubbock Cooper taking on San Angelo Lakeview. Cooper's at 4-1 on the year. Lakeview comes in with a 2-4 record, and I just don't see this being much of a contest, but that's when we play the games. But I think Cooper walks away with that one. Drop down into District 4A, Division I. Lubbock Estacado is taking on Borger, and Estacado has just struggled all year. Borger, not a whole lot better. They're at 2-4. Estacado has a 1-4 record. But from what I've seen of Borger and some of the games they've played, I think this is going to be another tough matchup for Estacado to try to find the win column. Then you've got Levelland taking on Seminole, and the Lobos come in at 2-3, while Seminole's at 1-5. Levelland's played some pretty decent football at times, but they really, really seem to have a problem with shooting themselves in the foot. And if they can clean some things up, and especially as far as ball security, they should have a good chance to get a win against Seminole. Drop down into 3A Division I. Muleshoe takes on Amarillo River Road. That should be an easy win for Muleshoe. Muleshoe's 4-1 on the year, and they're a very impressive squad. Childress and Littlefield. This is a very interesting game. Littlefield's at 2-3 on the year. Childress is 3-2, but Childress's 2 losses came to teams that have made deep runs in the state at the state level down in 2A the last couple of years, being Canadian and Wellington. Childress is a very good football team. They lost that game to Wellington by 1 point. Littlefield needs to show up with their A game. Littlefield had a really good win over Snyder, and I think they're on the right track. And, you know, Littlefield, Coach Huseman over there always has that team playing hard and hitting hard, and that should be a really good football game. Dimmitt and Freona, the Dimmitt Bobcats are 4-1 on the year, and it's good to see Dimmitt actually having a pretty good amount of success on the football field. in that district, and they're going to be taking on Freona, and I think they'll get a win there. We drop down into District 2, and the Brownfield Cubs are 4-0 on the year. They take on a 2-3 Denver City team. When you looked at this game at the beginning of the year, I'm thinking, okay, Denver City's a slight advantage, but looking at it now, I think Brownfield is Denver City's shown some weakness. Shallowater takes on Kermit. Shallowater sitting at 2-2 on the year. Kermit has yet to win a ball game, so I think that'll be a pretty tough game for Kermit, and I think Shallowater gets another win. Slayton, 1-4, has to go to Tornillo. It's one of those Greyhound games of the week, as we used to call them, where they're going to make the big trip down there. A 1-4 Slayton team taking an 0-5 Tornillo team, and looks like I will bet you the Tigers come home with a win, which was the only thing that would make that drive even somewhat
It'll
possible.
help things out, right? If they would, that'll make the drive a little bit worth it.
300 and plus miles.
That's a trip.
It's silly is what it is, but we'll just save that for another day, shall we?
Is that another soapbox you'll get on later on?
Yeah, it's a tall one too. Let's drop down into District 3A Division 2. Idalou taking on Amarillo Highland Park. This is a battle of two 4-1 teams. Highland Park, forever up in the Amarillo area, was kind of the doorstep, the doormat. But the last couple of years, they put some really good teams together, and they're off to a good start. Idalou is certainly off to a really good start as well, and that should be a great game. Lubbock Roosevelt has now put themselves on a 3-game winning streak after dropping their first 2 games of the season. They take on a Tulia Hornets team in Tulia tonight that has yet to win a game, and look for the Eagles of Lubbock Roosevelt to extend their winning streak to 4 games. Also, another game in that district doesn't really involve our area teams, but out of that district, Sanford Fritz taking on Spearman. Spearman's 5-0 on the year, and really, I predicted at the beginning of the year that you'd see this district come down to Spearman and Idalou. I think that's the 2 teams that we look at to be in competition for the district championship. When you drop to 2A, District 2, Division 1, you've got Abernathy taking on New Deal. More than likely, based on the way teams are playing right now, that 2-2 Abernathy team taking on a 5-0 New Deal team, and that's going to probably be your district championship game if things play out like I think they will. So that's a really important game. The thing is, right now, Chad, New Deal is playing so heads and shoulders above everybody else in that district, and I think that's a pretty easy win for the Lions tonight over the Antelopes. But I've been wrong before. Floydada takes on Olton, a battle of 2 and 4-1 teams, and then Hell Center taking on Tahoka. Both of those teams are at 3-2 on the year. Drop down into Division 2, and you've got Sudan taking on Farwell. Sudan sitting there at 4-2, taking on 2-3 Farwell team. Lockney kicks off their district campaign in District 3 against Clarendon. Both those teams are 3-2 on the year, and that's going to be a really tough ball game. I don't know if Lockney can cure some of their issues as far as ball security and making sure they play a clean game. I think they're in that one. The Crosbyton Chiefs are 5-0 on the year. They take on the Quanah Indians up in Quanah, and then Rawls gets Memphis. Rawls still looking for their first win of the year. So that's kind of what some of the games that we've got, and a lot of good district action.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe that we're already October 9th and looking at the halfway point of the season.
Absolutely. Visiting with Stephen Orr, West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show. Stephen, what are, I guess, a couple of the can't-miss games if people weren't wanting to go out? I
may just be dead wrong, but I think that Lubbock-Monterey friendship game has everything you want to say. I think that could be a really, really awesome ball game. I'm also, I think that Abernathy New Deal game is a really good game to go see. And then Childress and Littlefield. The other thing about Childress and Littlefield, there's history there, and that's 2 teams that just hit.
Yeah.
If you want to see a really physical football game, I bet you'd be hard-pressed to find one that's more physical than what you get with Childress and Littlefield.
Stephen Orr, West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show, 10 p.m. to midnight on 1340 The Fan. You can hear it here also on KFYO, 10 p.m. to midnight. Stephen Orr, as always, appreciate your time.
Hey, Chad, thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
You too. All right, Stephen Orr, West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show. You can listen to it 10 p.m. to midnight, KFYO, KKM as well, 1340 The Fan.